Well,
When I say goodnight, I'll wave and
okay, because we're live now. So
all
you're
right.
on. Have a good night.
Well, good evening, everybody. Apparently, we just went ahead and went right into the stream, which is just fine. I hope that everybody's doing well towards the end of the week. I'm going to try to get a little more comfortable here. Um, being petite, being short, chairs don't always fit me the way they should, so sometimes I kind of scooch up and sit cross-legged and get comfortable. And I hope you all do the same. Come in, settle in, get comfortable, and we'll talk about a little bit of spirituality, a little bit of um, history when it comes to this season, and a little bit of magic. So I hope you enjoy this evening. Myself, I've been a little bit absent. Many of you already know that I have a condition known as fibromyalgia. Now, there are still some people, in some camps that don't even believe it is a real thing. All I know is that I suffer from chronic widespread pain that can be triggered by any number of things. For me, my main triggers are when the weather changes dramatically, um, and extreme stress, and that can be physical or emotional. Um, so, in the case of the last couple of weeks, we've had the weather has been going back and forth between it's warm, it's cold, it's warm, it's cold, and this is sometimes all in one day. So I had to take a little bit of break. I've learned over the years I take it easy on myself and just ease into the autumn season, um, and give myself some grace. And I hope that all of you do the same. I know each and every one of you um, deal with your own personal issues. And sometimes we're our hardest critic when it comes to that. We get down on ourselves. And I am so guilty of that. And, I feel guilty because maybe I wasn't able to do something that I had wanted to. And so give yourself that same love and grace that you would your best friend, that you would your husband or wife or spouse. Um, you know, we all go through it and come out the other side. So I see up here, Miss Shelley Montgomery is saying, Blue, happy birthday. Is that our Blue Crossroads that's having his birthday? If so, very happy birthday to you, darling. Been thinking about you. Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit about Halloween and the spooky season and sort of my point of view and some of the things that have influenced me I wanted to bring to you. So, growing up, being a kid in the 70s and the 80s, um, it was a magical time where we got together. I got to go get together with friends, dress up in costumes, go up and down the streets. The street that I lived on with my grandparents, it was full of kids, absolutely full of kids. So, every other house you'd see a big group of kids. Um, and it was a magical time. You know, I wore everything from the old plastic masks that they came out with that I think were, more of a hazard than anything. And so we would also go and try to come up with unique ideas and not necessarily scary ideas, but something different, something unique, something fun. And one year I dressed up as a black cat. It was nice. It was simple. The weather was really cold that year. my love of cats, my love of the season. It made sense to me. Now, traditionally, if you look back historically, the idea of dressing in costumes to disguise yourself um, comes from the more Celtic cultures, and that Halloween, Samhain, All Hallows Eve was considered the night that was, and I hate to use the term, but when the veil was thinnest, but when the dead could cross over more easily into the land of the living. It was also believed by those that followed the more Christian based um, Celtic traditions that there were negative forces, demonic forces, and such that would come looking for souls. So the idea of dressing yourself up in a disguise or something scary would disguise you from these negative forces that were possibly coming to steal your soul away. Um, the way I was raised, we treated that as its own separate occurrence. The idea of hiding yourself from the negative forces and the celebration of spirits being able to communicate with us more easily. Um, Now, while I have never used a Ouija board or a Ouija, depending on where you're from, um, I've used many methods in my lifetime of ways to communicate with those that are on the other side. Now, I have my own abilities, my claircognizance, my clairsentience, of late, even clairaudience, which is clear hearing, that have allowed me to communicate more freely with those energies. But I learned at an early age. I would read tarot cards. We would do rune casting using rune stones. We would do scrying, where you could either use a bowl of water or a dark mirror, just to see what information, energies you would pick up on. Um, but we celebrated. We celebrated not the death, but the life, the energy, the spirit of those that had gone beyond. We would put out maybe a simple candle. It may be a photograph or a token of that loved one. Like, I've got a wonderful photograph, and I'll show it to you next week. It's of all four generations that I grew up with of women on my mother's side of the family, all in one picture. It was myself, my mother, my grandmother, and my great grandmother. We basically, for most of my youth, grew up all in one house. Um, and so, honoring the ones that have passed, my grandmother and my great grandmother, I'll set that out. I'll set a candle beside it. I'll maybe set out some salt for clearing, selenite, um, also for clearing, some shungite. Like, I've got this one of these nice pieces of shungite I might set with the photograph. I've got a pair of earrings that I gave to my grandmother when I was very young, and then they were returned to me when she passed away. So I might set those earrings out. I've got, you might remember, they were very popular in the 70s, even into the 80s. Avon made little perfume bottles in the shapes of vintage bottles. And so I've got one of those that was my great grandmother's that I might also set with that photograph. And then on All Hallows Eve, on Samhain, Halloween, I'll light that candle and I'll say, I might say it as a prayer, or I might just say it out loud. You know, thank you for always being there for me. Um, thank you for watching over me. And while I love and miss you, I'm glad to know that you're in the higher realms and you're watching over me. And, just as a simple way to honor those that have passed over. Now, on the opposite side of where I set that up, because they are special to me, and anyone who has had a close, loving relationship with a pet um, will understand this. I will set up another space for the pets that I've had that have gone beyond because their lives are extremely short compared to ours. So I may have, again, a photograph or a favorite toy or even a whisker that I've saved. And again, I'll light a candle and tell them thank you. Thank you for their unconditional love. Thank you for always knowing when maybe I was sad or sick and needing comfort and comforting me, and honor those energies and that their spirits have gone beyond. So those are just a couple of, simple things that I do traditionally to bring in the spirit of Samhain and Halloween. I wanted to show you a couple of things in regards to that. So, especially during the 70s and 80s, there arose a lot of um, groups, publications, magazines, um, all based around sort of what they call a pagan revival. And paganism itself never went by the wayside. It was practiced as quiet family traditions in a lot of cases. Um, I've got a gnat flying around in here. It's driving me nuts. But they brought back a lot of these to the public eye in these publications. And one that I'm pretty sure is still available today, and let me hold this up, is Circle Magazine. Okay. Circle Magazine, and let me see if I can read this to you. It's published by the Circle Sanctuary in uh, Barneville, Wisconsin. Okay. And I didn't get the chance to look him up before the podcast, but circle at circlesanctuary.org is the website email that's listed on the back of this. Now, I've got a couple of issues of this that, each issue will go over different things. This one, I kept it because it had traditions from cultures across the world revolving around feathers. And this was at a time when I was really starting to get feathers as signs and synchronicities, and was trying to understand that more. Trying to, you know, understand the message, why I was seeing them so often, and how to interpret that for myself. You know, the majority of them were raven's feathers, still are. I've come to understand ravens are a spirit guide for me. And when I'm needing reassurance or to be told that I'm on the right path, or almost as an atta girl, you did a good job, I will find a raven's feather smack in my path. Um, so, in this particular issue, though, and flipping through it, I came across a little bit on celebrating the seasons, All Hallows Eve. And so I'm going to hold it up for you there. Okay. And really, I just wanted to read a couple of little tidbits from it, and then you can probably go online. This is in Circle Magazine, issue number 102, fall of 2008, because I want to make sure that it's understood this is for educational purposes and that I want them to have all the credit. So you can go online. The last time I looked, it was just a few years ago, you could go online and even find old issues from their company that you could order. So there is at the very top a little blurb, and it's by Ray Bradbury, the author, and it's called The Halloween Tree. Halloween, she sly does it tiptoe, cat's paws, slide and creep. But why? What for? How? Who? When? Where did it all begin? You don't know, do you? Asks the carapace clavicle mound's shroud climbing out of the pile of leaves under the Halloween tree. You don't really know. And that's so true of, you know, a lot of the younger generations today is they don't really know and they don't really grasp what the traditions are around this extremely popular holiday that we celebrate across cultures. And so I'm hoping to just instill a little bit of inspiration to go out there, to dig a little deeper into the stories behind the traditions that we celebrate and their deeper meanings and what they mean to each of us individually. You're going to see me keep doing that as this gnat keeps flying around. Unfortunately, this time of year, they'll come in, knock on wood. Luckily, the spiders come in at the same time, and usually they disappear rather quickly as the spiders take care of it. But let's see here. So, where's this little bit that I wanted to read you? Okay. Samhain, spelled Samhain. Some say Samhain. The traditional pronunciation is Samhain or Samhain. All Hallows Eve, Halloween, and Halloween. The most magical night of the year, exactly opposite of Beltane on the wheel of the year. Halloween is Beltane's dark twin. A night of glowing jack-o'-lanterns, bobbing for apples, tricks or treats, and dressing in costume. A night of ghost stories, seances, tarot card readings, and scrying with mirrors. A night of power when the veil separates our world from the other world and it is at its thinnest. a spirit night, as they say in Wales. So a lot of us also enjoy scary tales during this time of year. And I think, it goes part and parcel with the whole idea of ghosts and spirits and ghost stories of seeing strange mists and soldiers walking across a battlefield. And so while a lot of them are embellished, a lot of them are based in actual occurrences and traditions. And so I encourage you all to dig a little deeper into those traditions. One of my favorites as a youth, and you got to thank Disney for this one, was the tale of Ichabod Crane and how he was chased by the headless horseman who was forever looking for his head. And well, the whole idea behind a ghostly apparition chasing someone down to steal their head is scary. It goes back to the idea that a tormented soul may be looking for something that was lost. And with modern day paranormal investigating, ghost hunting, all of that, they come to it with a orange colored glasses. I wanted to say rose colored glasses, but orange colored glasses for Halloween. View of that, because they don't necessarily understand it right off the bat, that it's malicious, that it's negative, that it's scary. And so they do what I call poking it with a stick. They'll come into a location, and instead of taking the time to honestly explain why they are there, what's going on, and doing it respectfully, because it's not their home, means so much more in having a good quality investigation, and to lend credence to the traditions that surround this time of year, um, allowing for those that have passed over to have a voice be heard with respect and honesty, to me is the most important thing when it comes to this time of year. So, if you want to go out there and do it for the thrills, absolutely. I have no problem with that. But do it in a respectful way. Um, Make sure, and I gotta love Amy Bruni, um, longtime follower of hers, and her discussing um, finding out the true history, really doing your research before you go to a location to investigate, and getting your facts straight. Because a lot of times, with what she's found, with what I found, um, you'll go to these haunted locations, and the story, it's like a telephone game. So the story started out with um, John Smith died at this location. And then it becomes John Smith died at this location of a broken heart because his wife passed away. And then it becomes John Smith died at this location of a broken heart because his wife passed away and his children passed away. And over the years, these embellishments get added on to next thing you know, John Smith is now a murderer who killed his wife. And no, John Smith passed away peacefully, lovingly in this home. But now, because his essence has decided to stay in this home, he's a little upset. You're telling the story wrong. And so now he's become the poltergeist, the noisy ghost. And when he hears these people telling the story wrong, things fall off walls, noises get heard, bangs, footsteps, so on. And then that, of course, just perpetuates the whole thing. And so, personally, as a medium, if I'm going in as a medium, as a psychic, I will close myself off from that part of it, the paper trail, the digging into the history, until I've gone in and at least done an initial energetic read. And so I'll go in to a space and, like Sarah says, what do I see, feel, hear, and know? And I'll write it down as I go through. It could be, okay, when I walk into this room, I'm not really picking up on anything, but I'm feeling kind of pulled towards another part of the house. And so I'll write that down. And then I'll go to another area. And okay, in here, I just feel sad for no reason. And I'll write that down. Or maybe I'll smell lavender or something like that. I'll write that down. And so whether you're an investigator or a medium and you're going into these haunted locations, taking notes in journaling is super, super important for getting not only your facts straight, but you can then, after the fact, go as psychic or medium and sit down with the historians and see where it lines up. And that'll give you validation and it'll tell you where, okay, maybe you can look back and say, well, okay, the first room, I wasn't feeling it very strongly. And so was I scattered? Was I grounded down? Was I really focused in on what I was doing? Well, yeah, I kind of had this other thing on my mind, and so I wasn't focusing. So, okay, I'm going to write that one off. So then I can go back though and say, okay, well, the lavender, well, that, you know, apparently the person that lived in this room that passed away, that was their favorite flower, favorite perfume. Or it could be that the person that passed away in that room or spent their lifetime in that room suffered from depression. And so there was a lot of sadness. And so it could be a residual energy. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that picking up on that means it's haunted, but that there's a residual energy there. And so then on the other side of it, going to the documentation, um, going to start out with um, who's owned the property. So wherever it's at, say if it was in my little town, Los Alamos, I would go to the county clerk's office and I would ask to see the information on my property or whichever property I was looking at of, um, you know, who bought it, who sold it, if there's any death records, Sometimes they will have death records there. I might also go to my local newspaper and, okay, so I know that uh, Jane Doe lived in this house. It was purchased on this year and then it was sold on this year. So I'll look during that time period of obituaries and compare, okay, who might have passed away in the house, you know, what were the circumstances, and see what information I can find out there. I might also go to my local library. A lot of libraries, especially the older libraries in cities, counties, will have um, books on like census of who lived in the city, who died there, were there any major catastrophes, um, were there, say if there was a railroad that went through, were there any major train crashes, things of that nature. Um, you can also go to your local historical society and make connections there with um, the history of the area, the land, who owned it before. Now, while a lot of our nation, if you live in the US, was once lived on by First Nations, doesn't necessarily mean it was a burial site or a battle site, but there may have been First Nations tribes that called it home. So it's also good to have that information. You know, were there wars that broke out during the Civil War? Was there battles that went on? There's so much details and information, and it could be as simple as infighting between two families that can be found by going to these different resources um, and gathering all that information. And then you can take that information and what you find back, and it might help you gain clearer insight into what paranormal or supernatural activity might be going on in an area. Um, you know, when I bought my house, trying to figure out whether, okay, was the paranormal activity around me or was it around the property? I was able to do so by doing a little bit of that um, and records and recording. So, you know, my hopes as I'm doing these podcasts is that I just inspire each and every one of you to be more thoughtful in the whole process of looking at um, the supernatural, the paranormal, the cryptid, the UFO, all of it. In my reality, in my personal belief, they are all connected because of the energy that basically drives this universe. That it's all one source, it's all one thing. We may call it different names. Um, you know, I'm a Star Wars fan. I have no problem calling it the force of the universe, and how it binds us and ties us together. Okay. Some may call it God, some may call it Buddha, some may call it source. Um, when you dig deeper and you really look into it, it's basically all the same thing. So I encourage you also to try to look at different belief systems. Don't take my word on it. Don't take Gemma's word on it. Don't take any one individual's word on it. Do your own research. Find your own answers. Ask your own questions. That's how we make a deeper connection with both ourselves and supernatural. So I want to take just a moment. I'm going to take a sip here. Thank you for that. I want to get each of you to consider giving a little bit more feedback on what you would like me to cover specifically. Well, when I sit down and do these, I've got my notebook, okay? My handy dandy journal notebook with my scribbles and things that I want to talk about. I'll gather resources, books, and what have you to bring forward. I'd like to hear from you, each and every one of you, what I can bring to you that's helpful to you, that explores a part of the world that maybe I may have some information or knowledge of, or just point of view. So if you would, for me, my email is in the show notes. You can leave a comment after the streams, and Gemma looks at all of those. I'm not always able to go back and look at all of those, but you can leave a comment. You can email Gemma. You can message her. You can message me, and let me know what you're thinking about the types of things that I cover, questions you might have. When you do, I really appreciate it. It helps me help you. You know, let's see, what else did I want to do right at the moment? Part of it was, again, being nostalgic. I've been going through, back through a lot of my old publications to see what I could bring that would give a little bit deeper meaning to the Halloween season. And I know I had touched base on candles and their various uses. And so I found, and again, this is another publication. Now, Llewellyn Publications does a lot of spiritual, pagan, Celtic, Norse, all kinds of publications that I think if you were to go on to, let's see, what is it? I've got it here. Llewellyn, and it's LLEWELLYN, worldwide, or Llewellyn.com. Now I know my husband, who just walked by in the background, is in the back of his mind as he's hearing me say the word Llewellyn, is thinking of it in Welsh, which puts more emphasis on the double L's. His middle name is Lewis, also pronounced Lewis because of the double L. It's Welsh. So I have an old copy. This is actually 2012, the year the Mayan calendar was believed that the world would end for some. Well, in a lot of ways it did. Just because something ends doesn't mean it ceases to exist. It just takes on a new form sometimes. So this is my Witch's Date book, which, I mean, literally is what it sounds like. It's a calendar type date book. But what's really neat is it's got on every few pages little tidbits of either poetry or maybe recipes or history and so on. And then in the front of each one, just like the Witch's Almanac, it will have, maybe specific things. It has, like this one. Let's see if I can get it where the light doesn't hit it too harshly. Hold on, and I'll grab that comment in just a second, Shelley. It's got like the moon phases and the symbols for what those mean, and then the astrological signs. Go ahead and put that back up so I can see that again. What was her question? All right, so if I was wondering if you would cover a neighborhood of woo, if there are many of these reported. Okay, so I will write that down, and I'm going to presume, and you can put it in the chat, Shelley, that you're talking about like maybe where an entire neighborhood is affected by paranormal occurrences, say hauntings or like a spirit traveling from a house, one house to another house to another house. If that is the case, if you would let me know, and I will definitely do some research and see what I can find. Yes? Okay. All right. I will do that. So let's look at paranormal neighborhoods as a thing. Sorry for the pause while I write this down. Okay. Thanks for the suggestion. I appreciate that. No, you're welcome. You are welcome. And also, when you have comments, putting them all in caps for me, I appreciate that so very much. Unfortunately, with my vision, and I have to get it right up and do that until I can figure out where I can see it. And I appreciate it so much. And so, with this one, I loved the fact that in every issue they would keep uh, both the planets and the astrological signs, because I was just starting to get into astrology at that point in time. Now, while I still am interested in astrology, I am not an astrologer, and I don't think I ever will be, but I wanted to dive deeper into it the last couple of years so that when questions do come up, I understand it enough to help find the answers. Because just because you're not knowledgeable in something doesn't mean you can't go looking and find the answers. So, what I wanted to talk about was candles. I wanted to go back to the candle thing very briefly. And so here, I'm not going to read the whole article. I'm going to just read excerpts from it. Oh, you used to have a lot? That's really cool. Even some of the Oracle and Tarot decks that I've got are from Llewellyn Publications. Yeah, yeah. I've got a copy over there of a guide to angels as spirit guardians, or guardian angels, that I got from Llewellyn Publications that I really, really like. So yeah, I can't necessarily say it's for everyone, but I highly recommend looking into them. So with this article is called Candle Magic by Jakin. I don't know where that came from. James Kabos, Kambos, and he talks about candles and candle magic, and mostly from a folk magic point of view. But you have to consider that candles and candle magic basically has been around since flame existed. Since man first looked into a single flame and saw the light and thought of the power behind that light as a way to illuminate the darkness. In pre-Christian and early Christian cultures, um, candles began to be used for ceremonies on holy days, as well as those of the earlier Celtic and pagan traditions. They would light a sacred bonfire, both in the early Christian and early um, pagan traditions on these sacred holy days. And so with this article, it says, candle magic has been a part of folk magic, witchcraft, and other religious ceremonies for centuries. A candle's flame has always been believed to attract benevolent spirits, meaning the good ones, and repel evil. Thus, candle magic in various forms has become woven into many religious and cultural rituals. Lighting candles in a church or during Hanukkah are based on a type of candle magic. It was believed that lighting candles on a birthday cake was a way to thank the gods for prosperity and for another year of life. That's something everybody does, right? Let's see. It is unknown when candle magic officially began, but we do know that candles themselves have been around as a source of illumination since approximately 3000 BCE, with the earliest at this time when this was written being found in Crete and Egypt. Why and how candle magic works? We've all experienced why candle magic works. Candlelight is magical. Think about that date with that person that makes your heart all aflutter, and you've got the romantic candlelight, and how magical it makes that experience. And how people coming together and lighting candles in remembrance, although be it somber, that act of coming together and lighting those candles, that's a magical experience. It's a way of honoring the living and the dead. So you can easily transform an ordinary room into a place of mystery and beauty simply by lighting a candle. Soft candlelight not only transforms a room into an enchanting space, it also transforms you into the magician. Candlelight raises our psychic awareness and prepares us for the magic to begin. So think about that when you're setting up a table for a candlelit dinner. You are performing a ceremony with the intention that this meal is going to be enjoyed, that it's going to be romantic, or perhaps it's the Thanksgiving dinner and you're lighting the candles, that it will raise the happiness and joy and thankfulness of all of those who come together on that night. The reason tongue-tied. The reason candle magic works is because of our energy. When a candle is lit, it releases energy. And since you'll be the person who will empower the candle, it will be your energy being released into the unseen realm. Now, I would say yes, and I would also say no to this particular statement because you're also inviting in the essence and energy and frequency of those thoughts. You're, again, going back to Thanksgiving dinner, you're inviting in the energy of and frequency of love and family. So while, yes, the lighting of the candle and creating of the ceremony around it with food and family, you are instilling your energy into that, but you're also welcoming in all of that other energy. You're also welcoming in the energy of the last harvest, that feast day, that celebration for us in the US of a new life, of new friends, of new family, and what could be. So, there's lots of different ways to think about that. See what it says about getting started. Candle magic can be performed just by lighting a candle and saying a prayer. So, for instance, when I was learning about Catholicism, I had a girlfriend in school who was Catholic, and I wanted to understand from her point of view. She took me to her church and explained to me about lighting the candles for a family member. To receive more consistent results safely and easily, however, there are some basic guidelines. First, if you're doing candle magic, it must be used and should always be used to bring in positive energy into your life. Now, and that's a belief across many practices, whether it's paganism, Christianity, and the like, that you want to do this type of ceremony with positive intent. Are there those out there that will do it in a negative manner with negative intent? Yes, there are. 100%. I've seen them do it. I will never do it myself because I also have seen that it, and I equate it a lot of times to the pebble in the pond. What you put out there, those ripples, they will go out. That resonation will come straight back to you. So while they may do something for a negative purpose, gain in the moment, they will pay the price. So with that said, the one thing that I want to do, because I'm going to end the stream here in just a few moments, before we finish out, is get out a candle. And there's a lot of us out there, and this is myself included, that need a little bit of heart healing, a little bit of love and support. And so in candle magic tradition, and I like that this particular publication has the meanings behind each of the colors. You've got green is considered a healing color, will aid in all gardening, which makes sense. Green being the color of grass and trees, communication with the fairy realm, and growth. It's also a good color for attracting money. But in this case, my thought, my focus for myself, for those of you out there watching and listening now to those that watch later, I want to light this in a ceremonial way in the hopes that it will bring in healing and love. Because green is also the color of the heart chakra, that color that resonates so warm and beautifully when we are healing, when we are healed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, this is just a little votive holder, and I've got some pink Himalayan salt inside for clearing the energy. I'm going to place the candle down inside so that it will stand up. We don't want our candle falling over. Plus, this way, as it burns, it will be safe from the cats. I'm going to light some sage, and I've got my little smudge pot here. And I've got some leaves of white sage, and I know my husband's going to wrinkle his nose. He'll get over it because I'm only going to burn just a small amount just to clear both the energy of myself for our purpose and for the collective out there. I'm going to take my lighter and let the flame pass over the sage till it brings off some embers. I'm going to clear myself, my own energy, so that my energy, as it's instilled within a candle, is clear and focused. I'm going to send some of this smoke out to all of you. There, so you can see. And some people will say, does that actually work? It's energy. Of course it does. I'm going to say a brief thank you to the guides and the guardians, those who watch over us and do so in love and light only. We thank you for coming in and bringing love and happiness, healing, and peace as we light this candle and send it out to the collective that they might find healing and happiness and love in all manners. So then I'm going to light our candle. Just take a moment and focus your intention on the candle. Love and blessings to you too, Miss Shelley. Focus your intentions on the candle, on the flame, for love, for heart healing, for physical healing, for happiness, for peace. And as my teacher Athena would say, Amen, Aho, and so it is. With that, I will let this candle burn until its flame is extinguished to allow that energy to gently flow out into the universe, to connect to each and every one of you, to bring you love and light, peace and happiness. I appreciate each and every one of you so very much for joining me when I'm able to come on and giving your support to me as well. Just for a note, Miss Gemma will be doing her live intuitive one card readings, oracle readings, this Saturday. I believe it will be starting at, see, it's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I believe. But watch for her notifications. Ghost Dragons might pop something up, and come join her. Come join in the fellowship, the family, friendship that we have in that community. I plan on being there myself in the chat, and then watch for her posts on her upcoming podcast. I believe she'll do one on Monday, Monday morning. She always has some wonderful tales to tell us. And then I think this week is a week off for coffee talk, chill and chat, whatever you want to call it, on Tuesday. But she may have something special in mind with the upcoming Halloween holiday.
So things have changed.
Okay.
Saturday night,
Mhm.
excuse me, folks. A Saturday night oracles, of course. Monday her premiere. We're
Mhm.
doing Tuesday talk
Mhm.
every Tuesday now at 1 o'clock.
Excellent.
So there you go, folks.
All
Didn't mean
right.
to
Thank you.
interrupt you there.
You are fine, honey. You are absolutely fine. You are like my spirit ghost dragon, my spirit guide on my shoulder. So thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you.
I appreciate you very much. Love and light as always to each and every one of you. I hope to see you next week. I'm going to talk to Gemma and possibly do a reading of Edgar Allan Poe, The Raven, in time for Halloween. Love and light to all of you. Be kind and go in love. Bye bye, all.